Shailene, hi.
Hey.
Stage left. And there have been a few references in this press conference to another dystopian movie about an empowered young woman. And
Ferngully?
So there was a report online actually that Jennifer Lawrence urged you to take this role, and I'm wondering if that's true. You can speak to it.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we had one conversation. I still have yet to meet Jen, which is kind of funny because I'm talking about her so much right now. But yeah, I sent her an email and I was just curious, you know. She'd gone from doing indie films to doing Hunger Games, which is a giant film, obviously. And I wondered if it had changed her life in positive ways, if she was happy with her decision, if, you know, just sort of what that looked like, because I had zero reference to what a studio film would feel like in my personal life. So I asked her, and she said, yeah, you know, don't do anything stupid, don't do drugs, and don't make a sex tape, and don't go to Whole Foods the day the movie opens. Other than that, you'll be fine. She was like, you know, there can be some hard things that come with a decision like this, but the amount of beauty and positivity that come with it will transcend any of the other situations.
You identify yourself before you give all of us before we just make sure she knows. Go ahead. You're up. Go ahead.
Okay.
Not for me.
What are you saying? What?
Just go around and say names.
Say what? Hi.
Hey.
I'm trying to find out if you feel that you're very much like her, and how are you different? I mean, I'm sure you're like her in many ways, because I know you can be tough and everything when
like
you have
Triss?
to. Yeah,
or
like Triss. How are you like Triss, and how are you think you're very, very different?
Oh wow, that's a good one. I read a lot of who Triss is resonated with me, because I felt like when I was her age, you know, maybe 17, 18, I was sort of going through the struggle of I was raised by two psychologist parents who are the most beautiful, selfless people I've ever met. And so compassion and empathy were two things that, as a young child, were ingrained into my system, which is such a lovely gift, because I feel like those are two lessons that often don't get learned till later on in life. But as a teenager, I was like, my struggle was how do I balance being empathetic and being compassionate towards my peers, and also living my life for myself and not basing my decisions on those around me, and really live a life that I receive my happiness from my own experience rather than from people pleasing or whatnot. And so Trish sort of goes through that as well. You know, she was raised in a society where she had to be, or in a faction where she had to be selfless, and yet she joins this other faction which is all about sort of being selfish, and she has to find the balance between that. So I feel like I went through something similar, so that's how I relate to her, as well as just being a very strong, empowered woman. I feel very strong, and I live my life with a lot of integrity based on what I want for my life and who I am, and I think Trish is similar. As far as being different, Trish has really long hair, and it's blonde, and I don't anymore, so I guess that's a difference. I don't know, that was an awful joke. I don't know, I feel like we're actually very similar. I don't think there's a lot of differences between us.
I was just Angela Dawson, Front Row Features.
Hey.
And I was going to ask you, there's a little anecdote in here about you going on this little survivalist journey just on your own, not even related to preparing for this film or anything. And I was just wondering for you, what did you get out of that? And, you know, how long do you think you could make it on your own?
Survive? I hope a long time. This earth is exciting and there's so many things happening. I mean, survival skills, I started studying indigenous cultures a few years ago, and I was really inspired by their lifestyles and the way that they lived. And part of that was knowing how to survive in the wild and knowing how to heal themselves from the plants that grew around them. And that's how I became interested in wilderness skills. So I started studying herbalism, and I started studying edible plants that existed in the wild. And then I realized, like, okay, cool, so I know how to make fire out of sticks, and I know how to build shelter, but I live 90% of my life in an urban environment, so these skills aren't really going to help me because there aren't trees that grow in Los Angeles that I can just take a branch and you know, make fire out of, because that wood isn't conducive for that. So I started learning urban survival skills, like if something, you know, during Hurricane Sandy, I had a friend who was living in New York, and for a week she was like, I didn't have any water for a week, and I didn't know what to do. We sort of freaked out, and we were standing in lines for hours just to get a bottle of water. And that was sort of terrifying to think, like, oh wow, everything, it's easy right now. You turn on the shower, you do whatever, but especially right now with the drought in California, right? There's so many resources that we're depleting so quickly. And so I thought it would be an interesting skill set to have, to know if something were to go down, or even if it weren't, it's not like post-apocalyptic sort of idealism, it's more just like a fun hobby. What would I do if A, B, and C were to happen?
Great.
It's kind of fun.
Hi, Jamie Philbrook on Rogue.com. You work with two great seasoned actresses in this film, Ashley Judd and Kate Winslet. What was that experience like for you, and what did you learn from them as an actress?
It was amazing. I mean, Ashley and I were both sort of